Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Jerry Hamilton and Rod Babers here with your midday Saturday transfer portal update. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by Advanced Pain Care. We'll tell you more about Advanced Pain Care here later in the show. Jerry, let's start with the running back room. Hollywood Smothers, our CJ Vogel confirmed that Hollywood Smothers has made it to the Texas campus. I think it's imperative, Jerry, to lay out what does this mean, if anything, for Raleek Brown and the rest of the Texas running back room.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start because I do think Texas fans have been asking on TexasFootball.com about that. Raleek Brown signed, and he has signed with Texas, knowing that Texas was going after a second running back in the portal. So the fact that Hollywood Smothers, who's currently committed but not signed with Alabama, the NC State transfer, is on campus in Austin. I believe he got to campus around 10 this morning. That's not unexpected to Raleek Brown. And they are – and I'll let Rod get in this. They're two different types of players, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a running back, it'd be a little more concerning if it's the same guy. Why are you getting two of me? You already have me. They're different players, Rod.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think, like I said, kind of reminds me a little bit, Raleek Brown's got that explosivity we talk about. I know CJ Vogel has brought up that, Jaden Blue is one of those guys you can compare him to. If you look talking about Hollywood Smothers, I think he's got a little bit more patience to his game as a runner. I like his vision as a runner. Both of these guys, though, I think if you ended up getting both of those guys, you really could enhance your passing game a lot because they're both real good weapons in the passing game. So I like that you got Raleek Brown already. It'd be great to add another dimension in the running game to give you some more diversity in your run game this season.
Jerry, let's go over to defense. Let's start at linebacker. Justin Cryer, the Florida State transfer, committed to Texas on Friday, but a massive visitor for the Longhorns this weekend. Pitt linebacker Rasheem Biles, maybe the best linebacker in the portal, made it to Texas on Saturday.
Yeah, look, he's going to be one of the top returning defensive players to college football next year. He's out of Columbus, Ohio, originally signed with Pitt, was a little undersized. Some people say, well, he's still undersized. He's 220-ish pounds. Yeah, but he plays bigger than that. When he hits people, nobody's saying, "Was that a 220-pound guy?" They're thinking that guy's has to be 235. I mean, he's got some violence to his attack, just a tremendous playmaker. You can move him around. He can play every linebacker spot for you. He has that versatility. He's just a playmaker in general is what he is. This is a huge recruitment. Now, he's scheduled. He's already visited Michigan and Colorado. He's scheduled to go to Miami on Monday. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, with the Miami's got, when he goes to Miami, assuming he follows through and takes that visit, he's watching a practice of a team that's playing for a national championship that is losing the linebacker who's very similar to him on their roster. So, I mean, this is going to be a tough recruitment. It's going to be a battle as long as this visit takes place. But I think Texas is putting their best foot forward with Rasheem Biles. It's a 2-day visit. He got on campus, I believe, around 10 this morning as well. And we'll visit through tomorrow midday and then schedule to fly out to Miami for that visit to see the Hurricanes in Coral Gables. But it's a big one. Then you have Kedu Luave, who visited Texas the last Friday, or the last 2 days, I should say. He's now scheduled to be at Michigan. We think there's a possibility of one other. The interesting with Kedu Luave, both first-team All-ACC linebackers, by the way. Luave has a connection with Kyle Whittingham. So that's why I think Texas is battling there. He was from Harriman, Utah, so he's very familiar with Whittingham in that Utah program that Whittingham ran, which is now going to be very similar in Michigan in terms of style of play defensively and just overall in that program. And then we're still waiting to see if BYU is going to get involved at all. He went into the portal with a no contact tag. It doesn't mean you know exactly where you're going. It just means where I'm not answering phone calls and my agent's not answering phone calls from anybody. I have a good idea of who I'm going to visit. And that's what's played out with Luave. Justin Cryer, A-gap, B-gap thumper, downhill player. Won't be asked to do a lot in coverage. His strength is A-gap, B-gap, stopping run with physicality, Rod.
Yeah, a downhill player. There's no question about that. We talk about Cryer, but with Biles, I mean, the guy's just a stud. I don't even think there's much of a weakness in his game, honestly. This is a guy that doesn't have to lead the field every down linebacker, every situation. And I love his instincts too. You can tell, man, the guy leans on his instincts. Guy just got a great football IQ, but I think innate great instincts at linebacker, which is what you need. We talk about how everything happens faster at linebacker. There's a lot of, misdirection, a lot of things trying to occupy your eyes constantly. You really do need a guy with great instincts for the football. That's what Biles has. If they get Biles, that is a grand slam home run. Ain't no doubt about it. There ain't many defenders I can imagine in the portal that would have been better than Biles. Like, he's that good in my opinion.
Rod, I want to look at Wendell Gregory, the edge from Oklahoma State, 6'3", 255, had 4 sacks for the Cowboys this year. He's in the portal. He's on campus this weekend. When you look at Texas, and we'll see, Will Muschamp's defense, obviously, it operates different than Pete Kwiatkowski's defense with the overhangs, those guys on the edge. When you look at Wendell Gregory and you look at Brad Spence and Texas losing Trey Moore, Rod, how do those pieces, in your opinion, fit together if Texas were to get Wendell Gregory, or at least knowing that they're pursuing a guy that has some flexibility?
Yeah, I think because Muschamp's system, it is a multiple system, right? And what helps you get to that kind of multiplicity is having different players that are guys you can move around. I think also he just wants a guy like Brad Spence has the ability to play off-ball linebacker for you, but you can roll him down on the edge or spin him down to the edge. I think they like having that ability within the down, and also being multiple, like within the down, not just a guy that can play both the edge and play linebacker for you. So with Gregory, I think honestly Gregory to me is a guy that shines more on the edge. I like Brad Spence as both. I think when he got to Texas, he surprised me. I think he surprised the coaches. Remember, there wasn't a lot of talk about him playing edge when he got in. The coaches got to look at him and went, oh, he's an edge guy. And what I heard was that he was a power rusher. And they really didn't have a lot of those on the roster. They had a lot of speed rush. Colin Simmons, speed rush, guy gets you around the edge. And what the surprised them, I think a pleasant surprise, was that he was a power rusher. And that's why they surprisingly, even with his size, were able to put him on the edge. And they were, they thought that he could not only do a competent job, but actually could excel there. So I like Brad Spence having both the flexibility to be linebacker and a guy you can use on the edge. Bringing in a guy like Wendell Gregory just kind of reaffirms that for you, because now you do have the luxury still of having him as a movable chess piece. I would use Wendell Gregory at least more on the edge too, rather than off ball, but we'll see both of those guys kind of have that ability.
Gentlemen, let's take a quick timeout to thank our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. The portal, for some, it can be painful. And where better to go than our friends at Advanced Pain Care? With the help of a couple of lifetime Longhorns, here's a word from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
You might start having to refer to some of those neck and back pains as portal pains. Jerry, real quick on the off-ball linebacker position, Bo Barnes was at Kentucky on Friday, started a visit there. Has his departure, in your opinion, changed the math on what Texas needs at off-ball linebacker?
Yeah, I think, look, 2 for sure has been the number. I actually think there's a potential for a third. I mean, in that depth piece more so. But I do think that's a possibility now, because I will say this: I don't think Will Muschamp's going to go into the season, his first season at Texas, light on depth at a position, because he's been in the SEC a long time, and he knows the injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to be nicked up. There's going to be some guys miss a game. I don't think he's going to allow this Texas defense to not have the depth it needs. So I am looking at 3 potential linebackers from the portal. And that doesn't mean it's a frontline 2-year starter. I think it's just a guy that he feels like can fill a need, fill a role. So I do think 3 is on the table, guys.
Rod, Edwin Joseph, the Florida State safety / big nickel, committed to Ole Miss on Saturday afternoon. What do you think about depth in the secondary? Kobe Black has hit the portal. Texas was able to get Jelani McDonald back with Edwin Joseph committed to Ole Miss. What's your take on where Texas stands right now in the secondary?
Yeah, I think at the cornerback position, I feel good about things right now because bringing in Bo Masco, he can play corner or play nickel for you. We know Grayson Littleton also can be that guy. Kate Phillips, I think, has solidified himself. So I feel like the cornerback position, you're all right with the front line guys. Depth could be a concern. So you may want to, especially with Kobe Black leaving out, you may want to go get to a depth piece there. But I think front line wise, I feel good about corner. Safety is where you got Derek Williams coming back, which is a really good thing for you. Of course, you start with Jelani McDonald, but I think you want to go get a safety that you could trust as a center fielder, somebody that's got some range, and a safety that also can be a plus defender in coverage for you. Nothing against Jelani McDonald, but Muschamp's not going to have Jelani McDonald playing center field a lot. And he's not going to have him, as a deep safety a lot. They're going to have that guy. He's going to have him in the box. He's going to have him downhill playing the run a lot of the times. And I think he's going to use him in terms of a versatile piece to bring down into the box at linebacker depth sometimes. I think you need a safety that kind of reminds you of Makuba, a physical guy, because Muschamp's not going to have somebody that's not physical, but also somebody that can play center field for you when you got your single high coverages. So I would go after a safety with some versatility. If I was Texas, I know I think Muschamp wants a physical nickel. And Jelani McDonald is probably the best thing you got right now in terms of a physical nickel if you want to go a big nickel. So maybe that's something they look forward to, a physical nickel that also can be a guy that can play safety. But if you want to go there, I think you may be looking at a couple of more pieces potentially at secondary if you want a physical nickel. That is such a very, I'll say niche, but such a unique position that if you want a nickel that can be physical against the run, most of them have been streamlined to be pass first defenders. If you want a nickel that can be physical, there ain't many of them out there. And you might have to be very, I think if you're Muschamp, you got to be very specific in the skill sets and traits you want there. Just not a lot of guys who have the frame and the mentality to play a nickel as a physical run first defender.
Jerry, you've led our reporting on the fact that Texas is really focused on solidifying their front seven defensively. Does Edwin Joseph, does him picking Ole Miss, does that change the approach at all? Where do you think Texas goes from here?
No, I don't think it changes the approach. I think Texas would have taken Edwin Joseph if he wanted to commit on Texas's NIL number. So I think that is clearly what happened there. Texas was pretty much in, hey, we want you, but this is what we can do. I think linebacker, I think that edge position, that outside backer position, I think is where it's at right now. I think there's an opportunity or a chance that Texas takes another defensive lineman as well. They have nose guard solved depth-wise and front line guy with Ed Griffard to go with Josiah Sharma, who will be entering his redshirt freshman year, and now Zion Williams, who will be a redshirt freshman, the LSU transfer. But I think if there's another disruptive type three that intrigues Texas, Dante Simpson was on campus. He's still taking visits. That's a possibility as well. I also wanted to add Mikey Bennett, the offensive tackle from Yale, the right tackle from Yale, concluded his visit this morning. He's still scheduled to go to Oregon and Indiana. So we'll see how long this plays out for Mikey Bennett. Very talented player. I mean, he's been to FSU already for a visit, then went to Texas. But Oregon and Indiana are not giving up.
Absolutely. All right, Jerry, Rod, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at OnTexasFootball.com, we've got a special right now for first-time subscribers. Take advantage of our Portal Madness special, your first month of access at OnTexasFootball.com for just $1. We can only cover so much here on the channel. What we can't cover, what we don't cover, all the information we get from the portal as we get it goes on the message board over at OnTexasFootball.com. And again, first-time subscribers, take advantage of our Portal Madness special, your first month of access for just $1. For Jerry, for Rod, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.
Longhorns.